Hello everybody and welcome back to our second paid tournament for StarCraft Underground. We are actually in the semifinals, believe it or not. That's right, getting close to the end of this tournament. Got a good one for you today. Going to be a TVT with none other than WolFix, our grand champ from tournament number 1, facing off against Azhi as our blue Terran up here in the top right. This first match going to be taking place on match point, as is tradition. Got a natural just on the same level, just outside the main here, with ramp on both sides for both players. Exposed third here for both players, and the high ground here leading to the fourth and the bottom corners and top corner here. Should be a good one. So far in the tournament, WolFix has not dropped a single match as of yet, going 2-0 in all 3 victories so far, where Azhi 2-0'd in round 2, where they started out in this tournament. And the next round, they had a bye with the forfeit. And the round 4, which would have been their third match, Azhi went 2-1 against Harry. So Azhi only dropping a single match to WolFix's 0 matches. So good players right here, both Terran. TVTs do tend to go a little bit longer than most other games. We'll see what we got in store here. Looks like WolFix going to be going for a proxy racks here in the third for Azhi. Azhi going to be going for a typical opener here, getting gassed at 12, racks inside the main. Both players on par for each other. You can see the timings very, very similar right here. We're going to see that stay pretty true until we see either somebody go for the natural expansion or go straight for factory. We'll have to see what they choose to do here, how each player decides to handle this. Azhi a little bit ahead on worker count right now, just 2 up, but all in all, looking pretty good right now. First Marine pops out here for WolFix at the racks, queues up 2 more. It looks like WolFix going to be taking a little bit of a hit there on the worker count just to get this proxy racks off, get Marines pumping. Azhi's first Marine about to be on the battlefield here. Pretty standard openings here for both players, other than the proxy racks, of course. And when Azhi gets the SCV down in here, may wanted to have run that SCV a little bit further down, not see the proxy, the racks here. So at this point, Azhi's probably going to be suspicious of where that racks is at. Does see the factory get started. And here come 3 Marines inside the base of Azhi already. Gonna have to pull some SCVs off the mineral line. Only 1 Marine. Make that 2 Marines. Here's one down here in the bottom. It just gets sniped, though. These SCVs gonna have to be putting in some work here on defense. We're gonna have a lot of early game pressure here from WolFix, it looks like. These Marines getting backed up. The SCV's doing a good job here holding the front down, but this is lost mining time. Azhi can afford to lose some of these. He's up 4 SCVs right now over WolFix. But losing some of these SCVs is not a huge deal. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see the Marines go down like that, because once the Marines go down, that's pretty much it for the line of defense here. We're going to see a Vulture get queued immediately. These Vultures can make pretty quick work of the Marines here. Should be able to relieve this pressure. If he can get about 2 Vultures out on the battlefield, this proxy racks is going to go down, no doubt about it. Got the starport being queued up back home right now for WolFix in the midst of all of this. And it looks like we have stopped Marine production here at the proxy rack, so that's going to be taken care of. Good early defense right there from Azhi. Okay, WolFix going straight into the starport. I wonder what the plan is here. Choosing to not get the second factory? Nor are we going to see the control tower start immediately. Nope, we're going to see the Wraith come out. Okay, so might look for some Wraith harassment here on the mineral line in the main. Azhi going to be floating the factory. That's going to tell us he's going to go into tech here. Both factories getting floated now. So both players are going to be switching into tech. This is what we expect to see, a little bit more familiar with this. 2 factories versus going starport here. Azhi's timing is just a little bit behind. You can see this would have been a factory for WolFix had he not chose to go starport instead. So the timing A little bit behind here for Azhi to Hockey, just due to the early game pressure there from WolFix. But now we're going to see some Goliaths come out. Good choice right there from Azhi, as there will be a Wraith making their way onto the battlefield relatively soon. It is already on the battlefield. Scratch that. Here it is, flying across the battlefield here. 4 Vultures sitting outside the natural right now to 3 for Azhi. This Wraith going to get spotted here. But thankfully, Azhi's already got Goliaths on the way. First one comes out right now. Going to be shooting this Rax down. But the 3 Vultures at the front door get destroyed here in the midst of all of that. And now these Vultures are going to be trying to get into the main here. The Wraith's going to fly by. While the Goliaths have to try to take care of these Vultures. So far, WolFix having a little bit of the advantage in the aspect of map control here. Typically, the way these TVT games go is whoever can pin in the other person typically is the one that wins the game. Whether it be because they get starved out or they can't push out with their army. One way or another, if you get boxed in a TVT, you're probably going to lose. Map control is very important in this particular case, and so we've got to give the advantage to the WolFix so far. The Goliaths, though, breaking away that front attack right there. WolFix has a barracks just floating along up here. Azhi's barracks looks like it's going to get shot down unless he decides to pull the Goliaths over here to try to defend that. 6 Goliaths now on the way. We've got Cloak being researched for WolFix right now, as well as Siege Tank mode, whereas Azhi's just going to be focused on pumping out Goliaths right now. The Rax does go down. That's going to have to be rebuilt inside the main here, or else that's going to stop factory production. So we will see the Rax get put down. There it is. Okay, but now Azhi looking to take back a little bit of map control here, trying to push into WolFix's base, and that's actually going to stall out the natural here for WolFix, who was sitting there waiting to get that CC thrown down. But we do have a couple of Wraiths here in the main here that are going to be trying to attack. I'm more curious to see what these Goliaths are going to get done inside here, though. We got a Siege Tank sieged up here. Make that 2 inside the base here. 1 Wraith gets pulled back. Let's see how much work these Goliaths can get done. 1 Siege Tank goes down. Oh, one of these Goliaths really hurt. Another Goliath goes down, and Cloak is done just in time to defend against this. I didn't see the singular Marine right there. Good damage right there from Azhi, though. Both players now kind of push back in their own base here. We do have a Wraith, a Cloaked Wraith. Oh, no, that's terrible. The eBay is just about done here. These SCVs are going to have to try to get... They're going to have to try to get a missile turret put down here inside the main in the midst of this Wraith shooting, and it doesn't look like WolFix is paying attention to this, or if he is, probably just focused on taking out as many SCVs as he can before this missile turret does get put up, and the Cloak gets nullified. In the midst of that, Azhi puts down the missile turret in the natural, so no Wraith harassment there. Probably going to be getting an academy built sometime soon, and there we go. The academy is going to allow the Comstat station to be constructed to allow for the scan, but until then, these Wraiths just going to sit here and just rack up SCV kills. Look at this. This guy already with 10 kills right now. Cloak deactivates here for this guy. He's at 4. Looks like he's going to up and leave out of here. Azhi, though, not getting too distracted with this. Despite the fact that he's losing SCVs, he is still up 3 SCVs right now. So Azhi's up worker count and up population count as well. Just choosing to ignore the Wraiths in the base right now. Bold move. And eventually, WolFix just backs off with the Wraiths. He's got to know that Azhi's going to be pushing with these Goliaths, which is going to force the Wraiths out. Interesting strategy right there. Just ignoring them in the main and just choosing to leave. And look how easy those Wraiths get shot down by the Goliaths. One more missile from a Goliath right there, and that Wraith would have been gone. WolFix just now trying to get their second base up and going here. Haven't even seen a SCV transfer just yet, but not doing too bad in worker count. Looks like WolFix going to be trying to set up a tank line here to defend against that. Well, players once again pushed back into their own corner of the map. And let's take a look at the buildings. We've got 3 factories right now. 4 factories, gonna be 5 factories here. 5 fac for Azhi. Couple supply depots. We got the academy going down. Only 3 factories right now for WolFix. So far, all in all, it looks like Azhi Dahaki kind of taking the lead here. Good defense there in the beginning. WolFix tried to apply some pressure, keep him boxed in. Once Azhi broke out, though, he's doing a good job now. Staying ahead in worker count, as it evens out, actually, just as I say that, of course. But just ahead in population count a little bit. Got more factories up and going. That's going to allow for a bigger army population boom here. WolFix behind with the academy, so not going to have a scan available just yet. And instead, going to be trying to look to push out with 2 Wraiths, 5 tanks, and a couple SCVs to back them up. You're going to be met by these Goliaths here pretty quickly, though. These siege tanks are going to deal a lot of damage. If they can get sieged up and safely and allow the Goliaths to come in, these siege tanks actually stand a pretty good chance of wiping out these Goliaths. But that's going to be a matter of setup here and how this engagement's going to go. You know Azhi's going to hear the siege tank go up, throws the scan down, sees that there are a couple set up here, trying to find a way around, and going to have to move in now as the siege tanks make their move. Got a couple Wraiths here that are cloaked. SCV's going to be trying to do some repairs in the midst of all of this. So it looks like the siege tanks and Wraiths going to be coming out on top here. My goodness, I'm stumbling over my words this evening. And this is a pretty typical terrain move on this particular map. This is why you don't want to build a lot of your buildings over in this area. Once you are able to get siege tanks set up right here, you can just start shelling this base for free. And that's kind of the reason that WolFix has this Wraith out here in the first place, is to give vision up here on the top side of this. And it looks like Azhi going to be pulling the SCVs down here to try to take some shots from these tanks. Get in the way here. But Azhi sees he is trapped in. Not going to be breaking out from that. Throws in the towel. GG from Azhi Dahaki. So WolFix going to be taking game number 1 here. All right, so game 1 going to be going to WolFix here. Okay, and let's take a look at our bracket here. Like I said, this match going to be coming in the semifinals here. Winner of this one is going to move on, where they will await their opponent in the grand champion game. Loser of this one's going to be dropping down into the very far right side of the loser's bracket in round 9 there, where they're going to await their opponent, who must work their way back up through here. And at the end of this matchup today, we're going to work through some of the loser's bracket games. I'm not gonna cast them this particular time, but we're gonna go over some of them and see kind of some of the advancement here. And I may even cast the last 2 in the losers bracket. Maybe I'll cast round 8 and round 9. We'll see how this tournament goes, and we'll see how much time I have. But let's get into match number 2. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. Looks like we have Azhi gonna be spawning down here in the bottom right. Gonna be our blue Terran this go around. And WolFix up here in the top left as our green Terran. Yeah, the yellow on yellow, that's not going to work out. So we're not going to get our typical blue-red. Instead, we're going to have blue-green this match. Anyway, this next match is going to be taking place on Radion. This is a 4-player map with spawn locations in each corner. If you followed this tournament so far, you have seen this map before. I've talked a lot about this 4th base that kind of sits out here in the middle on both sides of this. Very defendable from the ground, but also very accessible through the air. So if both players if either player rather ends up taking this, they're going to have to defend against that from the air. But I'll give you a quick glance at this map. I'm not going to hang out too long talking about it, because we've seen this before. But there you go. Kind of features a big open battlefield right here in the middle, and really I don't know what it is about this particular map, but you don't really see a lot of fighting happening out here in the middle. It always ends up being tucked away in these corners, like right in here, kind of in the entryway, the choke point, I guess, if you will, on both sides. Or if it's a cross spawn, like here and here in the top corners, a lot of times you will see players flying back and forth here, especially Zerg players like to do muta harassment on this particular map just because of that. They can fly away and hide safely away from the Marines and Goliaths out here. Fly in over the mineral lines, harass the other dude, whoever it may be. Okay, anyway, enough of the map. Looks like both players going to be going for a standard opening here. So far, we got gas at 12, supply depot, then racks, then gas at 12. Both racks is going to be put down inside the main here by both players, so no proxy racks this time. The 4-player maps make it a little bit more difficult to do a proxy racks just because you don't really know for sure where your opponent's spawning at. On 2-player maps, it's easy. You know where they're at. You know where the third mineral line is. You know where you can hide your raxes, where the scout typically goes, so you can avoid the scout path with the proxy. But on the 4 players, like I said, you're not for sure where they're spawning at, and by the time you find them and you get a racks down there or a gateway or whatever it is, you just lose the time window of the advantage for that. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me to see no proxy here. Both players going to be going straight into factory. This is what we expect to see from a TVT. It's a shame to me that Azhi tapped out in match number 1 when they did. It seems like once Azhi defended that first Rax rush, he did a really good job stalling out the attack, kind of got himself locked, even pushed WolFix back to his side of the map a couple times there, multiple times throughout that match, and was even leading in worker count for a long time in that match, and even population count as well. But like I said, in a TVT, once you get boxed in by the siege tanks, that's pretty much it. You don't really have a good way of getting rid of that. There are, of course, some tactics that can be used, but you hardly ever see anybody do them. One of them being, you could pump out some ghosts, cloak them, walk out, and lock down a whole tank line, which would allow you to move troops through there, but eventually that lockdown is going to break, the tanks are going to fire. It's just very, very difficult, and you're putting all the resources into the tech, getting the ghosts out there, which once they do use their lockdown, they're pretty much useless after that. I mean, a quick scan on the battlefield, once a couple lockdowns go down, the rest of the tanks are just going to shell them down immediately. So that's really going to only take you so far. It's just very difficult. If you get boxed in like that, it's very difficult to break out. So it doesn't surprise me that Azhi tapped out when he did. After he lost the Goliath army like that at the front door and saw the siege tanks getting set up outside the natural, I don't blame him for tapping out, but it is kind of discouraging. He was doing such a good job the whole game. I wish he could have gone a little bit deeper in that one. But we'll see what happens here in match number 2, though. And I do realize that I did forget to update the scoreboard, so I'm going to hop over and do that real quick in the midst of this. Just bear with me. Here we go. There we go. WolFix up 1-0. There we go. Okay. I am not a professional, guys and gals, so just got to deal with it. Sorry. I am what you get. Both these racks is making their way across the battlefield here. Let's take a look at what we got going on in each base. Goodness gracious, I'm just tripping over my words this time around. Okay, so a couple Marines here in the bunker. We've got 3 vultures out. It's got some supply depots being put down. 1 racks, 1 factory. That is not a racks. 1 racks right now. Already completed. Got our first siege tank out here for Azhi to hockey. Second factory just getting done. But it looks like WolFix on his 3rd factory right now with 1 machine shop. Got a couple tanks here going to be moving out. 2 tanks with 2 vultures and a couple Marines. And this did get seen by Azhi, so he's going to try to come out, it looks like, a little bit and meet this siege mode being researched right now by both players. Looks like it's going to be 2 tanks and 2 vultures versus 1 tank and 4 vultures. So let's see how this engagement goes here. We've got a Goliath that just got done here in the base, in the main here for Azhi. And it doesn't look like Azhi wants to engage on that just yet. WolFix now even on vulture count. Make that ahead on vulture count. Going to be 5 vultures to 4 down here. And the 3 factories making a little bit of a difference right now for WolFix in terms of army count here. It looks like Azhi going to be trying to engage here. Sends an SCV out to take the first couple shots. Got a couple Marines here. Vultures coming out to try to take him some hits. And in the midst of all this, WolFix's Rax was just floating here, and it looks like it actually took a couple shots from the Marines and the Goliath there. And that's not what you wanted to see from Azhi. So now we've got a couple siege tanks here set up. For Azhi, going to be pulling some SCVs up to try to repair. Azhi going to be trying to get the starport now. And this Rack's going to be shot down here inside the main of WolFix with just a couple Marines. And I'm very curious to see, let's see. Oops, sorry about that. We want to turn on, there we go. Let's see what the vision looks like for WolFix here. Getting 4 siege tanks set up. Might try to fly this Rax down a little bit to gain vision. Not going to go for that, though. All right, here we go. Another engagement attempt by Azhi. Does not know that he's walking into 4 tanks, though, that are already sieged up. The advantage here, definitely going to go to WolFix. The Vultures get in the face of the tanks of Azhi the Hockey, lay down some mines. And this is not looking good early on here for Azhi. Down to just 2 Vultures right now. And there it is, the GG. Azhi giving up here at the 8-minute mark. So an early game here in match number 2. So WolFix going to go undefeated again with a 2-0 victory over Azhi the Hockey. Going to be advancing into the grand finals. But he is going to be awaiting whoever is going to be the up-and-comer out of the losers bracket here. Okay, here we go. So WolFix going to be advancing, like I said, to the grand finals. Azhi going to be dropping down in the losers bracket around 9. And we got a little bit to go over here if I can find my window. Here we go. Okay, so also in this tournament, we have Erob took a 2-0 victory over I'm So Cool, advanced to round 5, and Firetip took a 2-1 victory over Yakub, also advanced to round 5. Next we had Erob versus Harry. Erob taking a 2-1 victory that time, advancing to round 6, and Firetip taking a 2-0 victory over Hazarouth, also advancing to round 6. So as it stands right now, we have WolFix awaiting his opponent for the grand final championship. We've got Erob versus Firetip going to be coming up next. Looks like I'm going to be casting that one for us. So stay tuned. We'll see how that one goes. But thank you guys all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out the next one. Or if you want to take part in one of these tournaments or become a member of our community, you can always join us in StarCraft Underground. I will have the link in the description. Until then, take it easy.